So, you guys deserve a serious apology from me for two different reasons, both of which are about the series. Reason number one, it took me many, many months to finally return to the series. And reason number two, it's not the BFDI video I promised. I'm gonna be real, ever since I even made that poll, I realized I high key kind of want to talk about object shows for now. I do want to eventually because that's such a big part of my childhood. Even though I'm not as big or as in love with the OSC anymore, I still think I should talk about it. And I've also obviously changed the series from Z-Man's True Tales to the, in my opinion, probably just more catchy in general, Z-Man's Extras. As much as I do like talking about my personal life and definitely want to do more of that, now that'd be a big part of the series. I don't want it to just be personal life experiences, since a lot of my personal life experiences are just watching TV. And speaking of TV, my all-time favorite TV show, The Simpsons. I know it might be dumb to already talk about these episodes, since for a majority of these, I'm already going to be talking about them when I get to their season reviews or whenever the hell they'll come out. But I wanted to do this in general, since I do still love the show, and plus I might give you a bit of just an opinion of what I consider to be the best of the best. I I honestly had trouble deciding if I wanted to do a top 10 or a top 20, and so I decided to honestly just split the diff and do top 15. So, and hopefully that being a unique number will make it different from the thousands of other best Simpson episode lists. One positive of the show being on for so long is that it means a lot of people talk about it, which at least gives me something to watch on YouTube. So yeah, here are my top 15 favorite episodes of my favorite show. And admittedly, it was extremely difficult to even make this list because, the top 5 at this point, I'm very certain about. But beyond that, it honestly gets a little tricky for me because there are so many great episodes. And note, I only decided to limit myself to the first 8 seasons, what I consider to be the best seasons of the show, because honestly, I kind of I always feel bad when I have to talk about Golden Age because, well, it's true the show got worse after season 8. I do think those other literally at this point, literally a little over 2/3 of the show, well, still deserve some love. So, well, they aren't going to be the immediate next episodes they make, kind of like how the first episodes were kind of like a mini two-parter. I do eventually want to make top 15 best lists for post-Golden pre-movie seasons, and then just all the post-movie seasons. They can all just be grouped in as one big bunch. So yeah, top 15 best. Well, okay. For the most part, this probably will be my top 15 best list, even if I'd included all the seasons, but you know what I mean. The best classic or golden episodes. Limiting myself from only the first 8 seasons. Here we go. Note, though, due to my opinion on the show I highly doubt, don't take this super seriously. Never take my videos super seriously, because obviously you can tell by watching them they're not the highest art or highest quality. But especially something like this, don't take these too seriously. There's plenty of other amazing episodes from the first 8 seasons alone that I totally may have forgotten about or maybe haven't rewatched in a hot minute, because I didn't rewatch these, by the way. But then again, I've seen these classic era Simpson episodes so many times. I know them so well. It's one of the few things I'm actually smart with in terms of knowing something about, because I'm a pretty dumb person. This is one of the only things I'm smart with, knowing Simpsons episodes, especially these golden seasons. So yeah, without further ado, top 15. Also, no honorable mentions, because I feel like they're just getting to me trying to find an excuse to talk about more episodes, and I don't want to do that, especially since, again, I'm already making season reviews of the show. Well, at number 15, Season 4, Episode 9, Mr. Plow. This top 15 spot almost went to another episode, Season 7's Lisa the Vegetarian. But what I think won this episode out over that one is that I simply find the comedy in this episode better. Well, I guess partially that, and also partially because I like the story more in this episode. Pretty much what happens in this one is that Homer accidentally like breaks both the cars that the family has. So eventually he ends up winning a snowplow, pretty much just as a way to try to make money while also getting just a vehicle to ride in. Just getting a car. Homer ends up actually being very successful, surprisingly, given that this is Homer we're talking about. And eventually, Homer's advice to his pal Barney about how he needs to make his life better ends up hurting Homer in the end because Barney ends up becoming the Plow King and ends up taking over his business. Homer tries to give Barney an impossible task to try to get some of his old customers back, but eventually realizes his wrongdoings. And the two friends are wanting to talk things over until God literally comes in at the end, is like, oh, hell nah. And boom, all the snow becomes grass again. What I love of okay, so this is a season 4 episode, right? And in my opinion, season 4 is when The Simpsons it's almost kind of like Family Guy, ironically enough. One of the few things I think the shows are kind of similar on in that both shows by their fourth season is when they really become more comedy based. And I think in certain ways, I think this worked out best for both shows. As much as I love the first 3 seasons of The Simpsons, especially seasons 2 and 3, I will admit that by season 3, it got a little weird that the show is mostly just still doing character stories. So I think switching over to being more comedy based, starting with season 4, was definitely the right move. And this episode is just proof of that because this is such a good episode. It's so funny. So it's just such a really funny episode. Definitely iconic, definitely funny. I think what I love about this episode and what I love about Homer as a character is that he can be both kind of a hero, but at the same time, he's still jerkish enough to where you can still totally laugh when he fails. That flashback where that reveals that Homer technically like ruined Barney's life really it makes it difficult to like him, at least in this episode. But he also clearly didn't know what he was doing, and he's still likable enough he's not bad enough to where I completely start to hate Homer as a character. It's that balancing act that I find extremely impressive. Number 14, Homer versus the 18th Amendment, Season 8, Episode 18. Going from one Homer job episode to the next, this is another just great, classic, iconic episode for me. I remember, I have a story about this episode. It won't become another Z-Man Extras episode, though, promise. Trust, bro. Okay, so, and I'm confident it was like 8th grade, like history class. Just talk about Prohibition and all that. They talked about, the teacher straight up just played this episode. And the guy even had like the season 8 DVD. And I was like, respect, teacher. I still hate school and don't care about what you're doing, but respect. Admittedly, though, he treated The Simpsons like it was a kid show, which even back then when in school, I pissed the hell out of me because The Simpsons is not like some kiddie shit. Like, it's an adult show. Side tangent, I hate that people act like, oh man, shows like The Simpsons can't be for adults because like you're not edgy enough. And it's dude, screw off. Go watch your Happy Tree Friends in your Has-Been Hotel and think you're deep, bro. Like, anyway, this is still a side tangent. Probably one of the times I'm going to be negative in this video because this is another amazing episode. I love this one. I loved it. I think, honestly, maybe that school memory makes me love it a bit more. So maybe there's some bias, but it's my list anyway, so who really cares? The whole premise of the town being a prohibition because of a really bad St. Patrick's Day accident is really fun. It's really great. I look Bart and Homer are my two favorite characters, so obviously having them team up in this one was really nice. I love the moment where Marge finally just admits Homer had a good plan for once, and she talked about how clever he is, despite Lisa not getting it. Which I mean, on some level, I kind of get because Homer was doing something illegal, but it's like, yeah, you know what, Lisa, you can go to your room. No one cares, twin. You're the one who cares about this, twin. So yeah, great. Honestly, I know I'm spending way less time on this one than the other one, but that's because I don't have as much to say here other than I think Mr. Plow is probably like a bit funnier. I think season 4 in general is a funnier season, but season 8, my personal favorite season of the show, was really good with like balancing the comedy and the story. Hence why I find this episode better. Number 13, season 2, episode 12, The Way We Was. Okay, so spoiler alert. Since ironically enough, this is the same day that marks like, or at least very close to the day that marks my 3-month anniversary of my Simpsons season 2 review. I have 2 season 2 episodes on here. So if you've seen that review, you probably already know what those 2 are. And yeah, this is one of them. My love for this episode has only grown and grown, and it may even slowly get higher and higher on the list the more older I get. Something I love about The Simpsons that makes it different from other adult cartoons like Family Guy or South Park is I actually have an emotional attachment to these characters. It's not just, oh, funny Peter Griffin man or funny Eric Cartman child. I actually care about The Simpsons as characters, and this episode and season 2 in general for me is a great example of that. The Way We Was such an awesome episode. I love these. This episode made me love these kind of like backstory episodes. I just loved the hell out of this thing. It's so entertaining. It's so well done. I'll agree that it's not like the most laugh out loud funny episode. I don't find like again the first 3 seasons of The Simpsons I love more because of the character stories and like their dynamics and all that more than I do actually laughing out loud. But even still, there's some really good subtle jokes in this episode. And I really just love and the fact that they can make me still care about the love story between Marge and Homer despite the fact we obviously know they're going to stay together because Simpsons. The fact they're going to be together because they're telling the story to their children. But I still love it. And honestly, this episode might just be a solo reason why I love the hell out of Homer and Marge as a couple. They are so cute together, and this episode is just the pinnacle of that. So yeah, definitely a better story-focused episode. And honestly, I think even in a comedy thing, I think having really good characters is a really great thing for you. I'm not saying they have to be likable, but I think having them be likable means even if you're not like the funniest thing ever, it still helps that I can just care about the characters and just want to see them doing stuff. Again, something that shows like Family Guy and South Park definitely lack from, since all the characters are pretty much just assholes. Number 12, Duffless, Season 4, Episode 16. Man, I need to decide if I'm going to talk about the name first or the season and episode first. Whatever. Okay, I'm going to be really quick with this one since I don't have a lot to say here. This is one of the best A-plot, B-plot structures I've seen in the show because I find both plots equally hilarious. You got the Homer plot, right? Which is pretty much just him. Pretty much he needs to go not rehab, but like AA and all that stuff. He needs to give up beer. And that's just really funny to me because again, Homer loves beer. Pretty much seeing a character without like their main trait is just a really funny premise. And this one has a lot of really good jokes. Both are from the opening set piece where Homer and Barney go to the Duff tour. To them, it just to Homer just having to live without beer. I am under the age of 21, so I have never even drunk a beer in my life, and definitely do not intend to become a drunk in my life. But I can understand. There's even now, at the tender young age of I don't know, like 17. I totally get Homer and that like you have something you love, so it's like you don't want it to be taken away. Like I couldn't live without my Pepsi or like my TV or even at this point even this channel because I love this channel because I love making videos for this even though it's been not the best couple of weeks in terms of content. I do apologize. Twilight Zone and Family Matters have been bitches to watch through. Well, not Family Matters. I've also been watching Twilight Zone. Regardless, Duffless is a great episode, and even the Bart and Lisa B plot I think is one of the few times where the A and B plots are like equally good in my mind, and they're both pretty peak. Bart and Lisa both kind of just one up each other the whole time. But again, they're kids, and it's like a sibling rivalry thing. So for me, it's like, who cares, twin? Who honestly cares? So yeah, just a great episode. I do love this one. Both plots are really good. Again, much like what I said with Mr. Plow, it's season 4, so you know you're getting a more comedy-based thing other than, like, some super deep story, but that's not always the worst thing in the world, you know? Especially if the jokes hit, and man, do they hit in this one. Number 11, Bart Sells His Soul, season 7, episode 4. I guess I'm saying the episode title first. Okay, Z-Man. Again, another one I'm gonna be kind of short with. I actually did rewatch this episode like a roughly like a week or maybe a bit older ago, but man, it just reminded me how much I love this episode. Again, it's not the most comedy driven thing in the world, but the story in it is beautiful. Not so much an emotional one like Way We Was, but a very like spiritual episode. I wouldn't straight up call it like a religious episode, but it definitely talks about like stuff like the soul and like how people interpret something like that. And I find that very, very interesting and just an interesting topic. And I think they handled it in an amazing way. Admittedly, seeing Bart without a soul, especially in the dream sequence, was very creepy, but in a way made it pretty enjoyable because of how creepy it was. And really makes you feel for his plight. I don't really have much to say about like the Mo B plot other than it's funny. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. Also, the ending. I know last episode I talked about Bart and Lisa getting a one up over each other, but Bart and Lisa, it's almost a good contrast, honestly. That episode showed that Bart and Lisa definitely have their disagreements, but the ending of this episode with Lisa buying the soul back for Bart shows how much the two really do love each other. And even though I'm not the biggest Lisa fan in the world, as I've stated a couple of times in my Simpsons videos, I still do love the Bart Lisa relationship, and it's definitely the best thing to come out of Lisa's character, at least in my opinion. Got a freshie right here, man. And with that, we are out of tier 1. We are now on tier 2, which is the top 10 episodes. While I love those previous 5 debates, obviously I think they were slightly not great enough to get into my overall top 10, which I'm getting into now. Number 10, season 2, episode 1, Bart Gets an F. Yeah, okay. Much like Way We Was, I already talked about this one in my season 2 review. And I remember going pretty long on my thoughts on this episode, especially. So I'm going to be rather brief here, but just to reiterate some same points, nothing really changed in terms of this one being amazing. I even now consider it in my top 10. While looking through the episodes, I was like, wow, man, yeah, there aren't a ton of episodes that can really get past this one for me. The story in it is so, man. And much like Way We Was with Homer and Marge as a couple, this one really makes me feel for Bart as a character a lot. He was still good in season 1, and you definitely cared for him. But in general, this episode proved that not only is season 2 going to be better than season 1, but Bart as a character is going to get better than season 1. Everything's going to get ramped up. Season 1 is good and definitely enjoyable, but yeah, seasons 2 to 8 really is what I consider to be like the golden age of The Simpsons, and also definitely not only my favorite TV show, but probably my favorite like piece of media because that's so much great stuff in that, man. I could ramble for hours about these seasons, but I'm trying to be brief here as to not annoy you guys too much because I know I'm a very annoying person. But yeah, Bart Gets an F, a very beautiful story. I keep saying beautiful, but it's a very well told story. You really feel for Bart because as someone who also is horrible at school, I get it, man. Great job destroying it, just how garbage the school education system is and how stupid it all is. Love this episode. And well, you can call the ending maybe a little too cheesy. Man, let Bart get his W, bro. 9. Season 8, episode 14, Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie Show. Well, another season 8 episode, which as already said, is my favorite season. This episode, I believe, is just a very clever critique of how like people were probably thinking at the time when the season was being made, like, okay, maybe this show was starting to like lose its fans. Itchy and Scratchy is pretty much just like The Simpsons. They use it to, like as an excuse to talk about The Simpsons at this point. Pretty much, Itchy and Scratchy's ratings have been going down, and I love that they make it specific that it's not because the show's gotten worse, but because everyone just kind of knows it and has no real desire to just watch more of it. Which I totally think is the writers trying to explain it, like why what might have happened with The Simpsons and if it might have been a similar case, Well, because of that, the network's executives try to like figure out what they can do to improve the show. And they end up adding Poochie, the Poof, the Great Gazoo, the cousin Oliver, even though I've never even watched a Brady Bunch episode in my life, or a Flintstone season 6 episode. Why am I talking about all these examples like I know them personally? Like I go to the pub with them. You know what I mean, though. That stupid new character added in a later season just to get more ratings. They make fun of it, and I really love that. But also, Homer is the voice actor of Poochie, so on one hand, you feel bad for Homer, and you kind of want Poochie to stay on because you feel for Homer. But on the other hand, Poochie sucks and is garbage, and I hate him. And him being voiced by Homer is the only reason why I don't want to instantly turn off my TV when I see this guy. Overall, just a really great meta episode that I really love. Kind of like the other season 8 episode I talked about, Homer versus the 18th Amendment. This one isn't so much like the most consistently funny thing in the world, but the jokes are still consistent, and it's still a great episode. Still definitely recommend this one. Going from an episode that is now purely just jokes, season 6, episode 12, Homer the Great. Yeah, this episode just shows how great of a character Homer is. Homer Simpson is my favorite fictional character of all time, and I am dying on this hill. I love the hell out of Homer, and considering he's the main character of The Simpsons, I think it explains why I love this show so much. This episode shows just how versatile of a character Homer can be, in my opinion. You can put this, especially like again, this classic age version of him. You can put him in almost any situation. And this episode, in my opinion, is one of, if not debatably, the best example of this being done in the show. You can literally have him wanting to be in a cult, and it's funny as hell. You can have him be the member of a cult, and have it be funny. You can have him try to improve the cult, make them do good things, and it could be funny. Again, there is a story here, and the story is still solid. As someone who is very introverted, I definitely do, on some level, get Homer's whole thing about like never really being able to fit in, even if admittedly a part of that is kind of on purpose. I really do not like being around other people. It's becoming a serious problem, actually. So yeah, you really feel for Homer, especially in that childhood flashback. That kid was such an ass. Oh, it's no Homers. We're allowed to have one Homer. And it's like, kid, shut up. I'm gonna fucking punch you right into that moon. I know you. But then he comes back as an adult, and it's like, oh man, no one be loving no Homers. But you are allowed to have the one, but it's not Simpson twin. Yeah, just an awesome episode. Definitely one of the most consistently funny. Number 7, season 4, episode 15, the episode right before Deathless, which was earlier on this list. I Love Lisa. One of the best like mixtures between great story and great jokes, which I think is why I'm putting this one like so high up on the list. It really is that perfect balance. Again, I've made it clear I don't really love Lisa as a character. I don't really care for her much, but I do really care about Ralph. And for shockingly, for being so iconic, we really had to wait all the way until this episode before Ralph really became that big of a character. Before this point, he was occasionally just like another random background kid. You can tell the writers were kind of taking notice of him, being like, huh, maybe we can use this character model for something. But they weren't really using him for much. But then you get to this episode, and it becomes very clear that, yeah, they're keeping this kid around. Because let's be honest, like we know Bart's class very well, but other than like Lisa's friend Janie, who's occasionally around, we don't really get to see much of Lisa's class really do much beyond like a one-off kid. So having another random kid in her class is definitely very good. Well, you feel bad for Ralph because he loves Lisa, but like obviously Lisa doesn't love him back, and it's like a whole thing. But also, the writers are smart and make sure to put in a lot of funny moments, so that way even if you don't care about the story, you can still laugh a lot. Good thing I still really care about the story, so it's the best of both worlds for me. And it's not that stupid Family Guy thing where it's like the jokes end up overtaking the good story. No, it's a beautiful balance. And since I consider myself a hope to be writer, I hope I'll eventually be able to tell a story that's this much of a perfect blend between comedy and while still being a very well told story. Also, it's something to watch on February because it talks about both Valentine's Day and President's Day. So good job. 10 out of 10 stars all around. Or 5 out of 5 because I do out of 5 ratings. Number 6, season 3, episode 17. I know on Disney Plus it's 16, but like we do not care. I do not care. We all know why. Those who know why Disney Plus removed an episode. You know. I know. Let's just know together. But yeah, it's Homer at the bat. All that creep factor for nothing, huh? Yes, I love this episode. Admittedly, it's a bit tough to say, but I think this episode is probably just like. I think the Real Gems, one of my favorite YouTubers, especially back in the day, really put it best when talking about this episode. And that this is like the first time the show really has an episode that's just pure jokes. Because we're still in season 3, we're still at the point when the show is more like character focused. But then you get an episode like this that still kind of has that season 3 essence, but feels like it feels like they're more of the season 4 style of writing, where it's still very comedy based. So so it gives like this weird balance, but weird in like a good way. Like it gives it a beautiful blend. My word of the day, freaking beautiful. Can't stop saying that word. I'm special in the head. That's why I keep saying it. Genuinely, just a really well written episode, though. Well, I am usually not a fan of celebrities in shows. I'm not, especially when they're playing themselves. But I think this is one of the better examples of it because they actually use it in the story in a meaningful way. They really help Homer out and like more so by their improving Homer's story by like, oh, he's getting beat by all these famous baseball players. Just a great episode. And it really feels like the sign of what the show will be turning into, especially in seasons 4 and 5. We are now on tier 3. Yes, me drinking my zero sugar Pepsi represents each of the 3 tiers. Because I've been talking a lot. Oh Lord. We have the bottom tier, which is you made it on the list. Tier 2, which is top 10. And now my top 5. These are the episode. Yeah, I would say for the ones in my top 10, my number 6 to 10. For the most part, I knew they should at least be in this list because they were truly great episodes. But these top 10, top 5, I mean, for the longest time I knew were my top 5. To the point where I originally almost made my video my top 5 because these were the options I was most comfortable with. For these ones, I'm going to be a little short. First of all, because I'm getting a little tired. I'm almost at the 30-minute mark. Give me a break. And second of all, because especially for when I get to my season reviews, I do want to. These episodes deserve an extremely in-depth cover in their respective seasons, at least in my opinion. Top 5. Here we go. Season 6, episode 24, Lemon of Troy. This one is a really this is great story, great jokes. The best Bart-centric episode, in my opinion. Bart Gets Enough really made me care about his character, but in terms of like a pure Bart episode, you don't get much better than Lemon of Troy, at least in my opinion. There's this video by this guy called like Patrick something where he goes over why this is the perfect episode, and I already loved this episode before then, but I think seeing that video so much as a kid to help me and as a teenager really made me realize why this episode is so genius. They really have every little thing has meaning, and it's like it's so shocking and really and helped me realize how genius the show was. And helped me better explain why I love it so much beyond just I like funny Homer Simpson, man. Genuinely just a brilliant episode. Just one of the most well-made episodes of the entire show. Well, there's still 4 episodes like of more than it for like personal reasons, but this one is extremely well made. And I'm very happy to have it in my top 5. This is one I could just watch for hour. I could rewatch like almost every day and never get bored of it. Something I can honestly say for like pretty much all of this top 15, honestly, and even a ton of episodes, Golden Age episodes, like that didn't even make it on the list. So that's how much I love this gosh dilly darn show. Well, number 4, season 4, episode 17, Last Exit to Springfield. Man, I Love Lisa, episode 15 on the list. Episode 16, Duffless on the list. And now episode 17, Let's Exit to Springfield on the list. Back to back to back peak 10 out of 10 episodes. Don't have much to say about this one other than it's one of the funniest episodes of anything ever. Just if you don't care about the stories much and just want pure jokes, watch this episode. I'm pretty sure most fans already agree. A lot of fans probably have this as their number 1, and I couldn't really blame them, especially if they wanted just a joke-filled episode. I love this episode as well, honestly. It's a great one. The whole Mr. Burns and Homer play off each other really well. It's a very well-told episode, and almost every scene has a funny moment. Very well-made episode. I can just spend the rest of this review going, dental plan, Lisa needs braces. Dental plan, Lisa needs braces. Great episode. But at number 3, season 5, episode 2, Cape Fear, I think slightly beats it out for being the funniest episode. 2 more I like more for personal reasons, but in terms of pure comedy, this is the peak one. You do need to watch the Sideshow. This is the 3rd Sideshow Pop episode. You will need to watch the first 2 Sideshow Pop episodes. Season 1's Krusty Gets Busted and Season 3's Black Widower to best understand this one. But if you've already seen those ones, then by all means, dig the hell in. I guess the one small nitpick is that, admittedly, for being his episode, Bart doesn't do like a ton. But with this many perfect jokes stacked in a row, I can't put this anything lower than the top 5. Even top 3 now. For years, not years, but for months, I've always determined whether I love this or Let's Exit to Springfield more. And I think Cape Fear slightly wins because I think it has a slightly more engaging story, which again, for someone like me, a story can genuinely, like, even in a comedy show, beat out like another thing. Just a great episode. Somehow you still care about the story and hope Bart's okay, even though A, it's the Simpsons, not killing off Bart, and B, like the whole thing's jokes, but they still get you to care because they still know when to take it seriously enough. That's one of the genius things about the show. Number 2 is season 8, episode 2, You Only Move Twice. Hank Mother Truckin' Scorpio. He is the reason. Well, he's not the sole reason, but he's one of the reasons this is at number 2. Again, as a kid, I watched this episode and I loved it, and I loved Hank Scorpio, but I couldn't exactly determine why. And I think it's because Al Brooks, the way he talks for Hank Scorpio, he is so freaking witty. Like, he's not the most overly laugh out loud thing ever, but man, this guy is witty, especially saying Scorpio, but I know he obviously, Albert Brooks has played a ton of other characters. It's gone to the point where Hank Scorpio is in my top 10 Simpson characters of all time, despite only being in this one singular episode. Seeing the family move, again, no doubt they're going to go back to Springfield by the end. But I think as a one-off experiment, I think is a really fun episode. Seeing each of the family and how they handle it is honestly one of the best things about this episode. I think I love how much they pack into it, but yet it all still works. And it's all still really funny. Like Bart in the special class is one of the funniest things in this episode. I fell off the jungle gym and that's how I got here. I start fires. Like, and the fact they all sounded like Ralph too somehow made it even funnier. I guess if I have like one small nitpick, because I feel like Lisa's reason is like maybe a little dumb. Like, okay, girl, for allergies in forest. Oh my god. But honestly, beyond that, that's like the only nitpick I have in like pretty much this whole episode. Just a genius episode of not only this show, but of television. Hank Scorpio is a legend. It's cool seeing The Simpsons in a new location, even if we all know the status quo is God. Brilliant episode. However, there can only be one. What is a number one? Well, boys, another gender, I'll tell you. My number one, season 8, episode 23, Homer's Enemy. While literally talking for this video, when looking at my list through my phone, here's the list, by the way, here's the phone. It's so bright. I realized I genuinely, unironically want to make just a full video talking about this episode. I think I'll do it as maybe like my episode 10 or something for this thing. I definitely don't want it to be like too recent. But I want to dedicate a full Z-Man Extras episode to only this episode. It might honestly be my favorite episode, my favorite piece of media ever made. Not because it's the funniest, honestly, personally, far from it. But because, god damn it, this story, Homer and Frank, their rivalry, everything about this thing is genius, especially the A plot. The B plot with Bart is good and definitely help, and if anything, is definitely an extension of the Homer plot and just how weird this town is, and just how the Simpson family in general can somehow always win and be on top. But my god, Frank Grimes and Homer and their whole interactions, their whole dynamic. Much like King Scorpio, Frank Grimes is in my top 10 favorite characters of all time. Maybe even top 5 if I really think about it. And it's because Hank Azaria, I hope that's the guy who played him, because if not, I'd look like a complete dumbass. Somehow even more than usual. Is great. He did an amazing job playing him. I just love having Frank and just how pissed he is at Homer. And yeah, Homer definitely did some bad things early on, but once Frank called Homer out on it, Homer genuinely tried to improve. Sure, it's still in his dumb Homer way, but hey, he's trying. He didn't. If this was like Peter Griffin, he would have just like continued doing the stupid things. But no, Homer's a genuinely good person, and I care about him. And Homer will do the right thing if you genuinely tell him, "Hey, man, I don't like you eating my lunch and like doing stuff with my pencils. Those are my pencils." So yeah, this is honestly a great episode, and I apologize. I'm not going further in depth with this, but just know it is probably my favorite piece of media ever made, and it is without a doubt my favorite episode of my favorite show. And that's the list. Hopefully, you guys didn't mind me gushing for like 40 minutes about Simpsons. I will eventually. 13 of these 15 episodes I'll eventually have to talk about again when I in like 50 years get around to each of their season reviews. But yeah, for now, these are just my top 15. I know for a fact that even only including those first 8 seasons, this will still probably change, but hey, you know what? I still love these I know for a fact I'll still love all of these episodes. I'll still love all these episodes. You know they all going to be in 5 out of 5. So this is more of just a way of me to gush about my favorite piece of media of all time. While we'll still not always need to do season reviews of it so constantly and still being able to talk about other stuff with that. Thanks for watching. Z-Man out. And before I go, that's right. Really should have showed it off in the beginning of the video, but yeah, I'm wearing a Simpsons shirt. I came prepared. Z-Man got locked in, and then continued to not lock in for the whole video.